The emergency beacon cut through the vast emptiness of space like a scream in the night. Its signal bounced from relay station to relay station across the galactic communication network, carrying with it a message that would change everything. On the bridge of the cargo vessel, Gentle Current, Captain HFY of the Thessarian Republic clutched his communication console with trembling hands. His blue-scaled fingers moved frantically across the controls as he tried to maintain the distress signal. Behind him, his crew of 12 worked desperately to keep their ship running while the enemy closed in around them. "Captain, the pirates are coming back for another pass," reported his weapons officer, a young Thessarian named Kolvas. "Our shields are down to 15%. We cannot take another hit like that." HFY looked out through the bridge viewports at the 3 sleek black ships that circled them like predators around wounded prey. The ships bore no identification marks, no flags or symbols to show what species crewed them. They were raiders, pirates who moved through this sector of space, taking what they wanted and destroying what they could not carry. "Keep transmitting the distress call," HFY ordered. "Someone has to hear us. The Galactic Patrol, the Centauri Defense Force, anyone who can help." But even as he spoke, HFY knew the truth. They were too far from any major shipping lanes, too far from any military outposts. The Gentle Current was a small cargo ship carrying agricultural supplies to a new colony world. They had taken this route to save time and fuel costs. Now that decision might cost them their lives. The pirates had appeared 3 hours ago, dropping out of hyperspace with weapons already charging. They demanded the cargo and threatened to destroy the ship if the crew resisted. HFY had tried to comply, but the pirates wanted more than just cargo. They wanted slaves. They wanted to take his crew to sell in the illegal markets that operated in the lawless regions beyond galactic authority. HFY would rather die than see his people sold into slavery. "Broadcasting on all emergency frequencies," reported his communications officer. "No response yet, Captain." The pirate ships moved closer. HFY could see weapon ports opening on their hulls. These raiders were done playing games. They would board his ship or destroy it, and either way, his crew would not survive. "This is Captain HFY of the merchant vessel Gentle Current," he spoke into his transmitter, knowing this might be his last message. "We are under attack by unknown raiders at coordinates 774 Mark 669. We carry no weapons and pose no threat. We are simple cargo haulers. Please, if anyone receives this message, we are Thessarian citizens. We have families. We just want to go home." His voice broke slightly on the last words. HFY thought of his mate, Varani, and their 3 younglings waiting for him back on Thessar Prime. He thought of the small farm where he planned to retire after a few more cargo runs. He thought of all the dreams that would die with him in the cold darkness of space. The largest pirate ship moved directly in front of them, blocking their view of the stars. Its captain's voice came over their communication system, speaking in the crude trade language used by criminals throughout the galaxy. "Thessarian ship, prepare to be boarded. Surrender now and some of you might live long enough to be sold. Resist and we will space all of you." HFY closed his eyes and whispered a prayer to the Thessarian ancestors. Then he opened them and looked at his crew. They were all looking back at him, waiting for orders, ready to follow him even into death. "Lock down all systems," he said quietly. "Activate the auto-destruct sequence. We will not give these monsters what they want." His crew nodded and began working at their stations. Better to die free than live as slaves. But before anyone could complete the destruct sequence, something impossible happened. The long-range sensors detected new ships approaching fast, very fast, faster than any ship in the Galactic Federation could travel. "Captain," whispered his sensor operator, a female Thessarian named Cynthia, "I am reading multiple contacts approaching our position. They are traveling at... This cannot be correct. They are exceeding maximum safe hyperspace speeds." "How many ships?" Zeph-Hi asked, though he hardly dared to hope. I count 15 contacts, sir. No, wait, 20. No, there are more appearing every second. Captain, I have never seen anything like this. They are moving faster than our sensors can track. The pirate ships had noticed the approaching vessels, too. Their formation shifted as they prepared to face whatever was coming. But they seemed confused, uncertain. These new ships were approaching at speeds that should have been impossible. Then the new arrivals dropped out of hyperspace, and Zeph-Hi's eyes widened in shock. The ships were like nothing he had ever seen. They were not the elegant, curved vessels favored by most galactic species. These ships looked like they were built for war. All angles and armor plating, covered in weapon systems that made even military vessels look weak by comparison. They were painted in dark colors with strange symbols that glowed with an inner light. But most shocking of all was their size. The smallest of the new ships was larger than a Galactic Federation battle cruiser. The largest was the size of a space station. "Unknown vessels," came a new voice over the communication system. The voice was strange, speaking in perfect galactic standard, but with an accent that Zeph-Hi had never heard before. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation Navy. You are attacking a civilian vessel in violation of galactic law. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Terran Federation? Zeph-Hi had never heard of such a government. Who were these people? The pirate captain responded with typical arrogance. "This is none of your business, aliens. Move along or share the fate of these cargo pushers." There was a moment of silence. Then the strange voice spoke again, and this time there was something in it that made Zeph-Hi's scales shiver. "Did you just threaten us?" the voice asked. And despite speaking the same words, the tone had changed completely. Now it carried a cold promise of violence that made the hardened pirate threat sound like a child's tantrum. The pirates must have sensed the change, too. Their ships began powering up weapons and moving into attack formation. "All ships," the human admiral said calmly, "you are authorized to engage. Show these murderers what happens when they threaten innocent people in our sector." Zeph-Hi watched in amazement as the human ships opened fire, but these were not the careful, precise energy beams used by most galactic military forces. These weapons unleashed destruction on a scale that defied belief. The first pirate ship simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of debris. The second ship tried to run, but one of the smaller human vessels caught it in seconds and tore it apart with weapons that seemed designed to cause maximum destruction. The third pirate ship, the largest one, managed to fire a few shots at the human fleet. The energy beams struck the hull of one of the human ships and dissipated harmlessly against armor that seemed to absorb the impact without even glowing. Then that pirate ship died too, torn apart by a barrage of weapons fire that lasted only a few seconds, but left nothing behind but scrap metal and empty space. The battle, if it could even be called that, was over in less than 2 minutes. 3 pirate ships that had terrorized this region of space for months were completely destroyed. The human fleet barely seemed to notice the engagement. "Thessarian vessel Gentle Current," came the Admiral's voice again, now warm and reassuring. "This is Admiral Chen. Are you injured? Do you require medical assistance?" Zeph-Hi stared at the display showing the human ships. They hung in space like sleeping giants, their weapons now silent, but somehow more threatening in their stillness. We are unharmed," he managed to say. Thank you. Thank you for saving us. But I must ask, who are you? I have never heard of the Terran Federation." "We are humans," Admiral Chen replied. "We come from a world called Earth, in what you probably call the Sol system. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could." "But how did you arrive so fast?" Cynthia asked from her station. According to our records, the Sol system is over 300 light-years from here. Even at maximum hyperspace speed, it should have taken you days to reach us." There was a pause. Then Admiral Chen spoke again, and HFY could hear something like grim amusement in her voice. "We have been watching this sector for some time," she said. "These pirates have been attacking cargo ships and taking slaves for 6 months. When we heard your distress call, we decided it was time to put an end to their activities." "You have been watching?" HFY asked. "But how?" "We have detected no human ships in this region." "Captain," Admiral Chen said gently, "there are many things about humans that the Galactic Federation does not know. We prefer it that way. But when we hear innocent people calling for help, we respond. It is who we are." One of the smaller human ships moved closer to the gentle current. It was still massive compared to the cargo vessel. But HFY could see now that it was designed for speed and stealth as much as firepower. "We are going to escort you to your destination," Admiral Chen continued. "These pirates were part of a larger organization. There may be more ships looking for you." "That is very kind," HFY replied. "But surely you have other duties. We do not wish to delay you." "Captain HFY," the Admiral said, and somehow she knew his name even though he had only mentioned it in his distress call. "You broadcast a message asking for help. You said you just wanted to go home to your families. That message reached us across hundreds of light-years of space. Do you think we would abandon you now?" HFY felt his eyes fill with tears. In all his years of trading throughout the galaxy, he had encountered dozens of different species. Some were kind, some were indifferent, some were hostile. But he had never met anyone who would cross hundreds of light-years to help strangers. "Thank you," he whispered. "There is no need to thank us," Admiral Chen replied. "Protecting innocent people from murderers and slavers is not a favor. It is a duty. One we take very seriously." The human fleet began to move, taking formation around the small cargo ship. As they traveled, HFY tried to learn more about these mysterious rescuers. His crew monitored their communications, analyzed their ship designs, and tried to understand the technology that had brought them across such vast distances so quickly. What they discovered amazed and terrified them in equal measure. The humans did not just have faster ships. They had completely different technology. Their vessels seemed to bend space itself, traveling through dimensions that other species could barely detect. Their weapons used principles of physics that challenged everything the Galactic Federation thought they knew about the universe. But more than their technology, it was their attitude that impressed HFY. These humans had crossed hundreds of light-years to save strangers. They had destroyed 3 pirate ships without hesitation and offered to escort a simple cargo vessel to safety. As they traveled, Admiral Chen shared more information about her people. The humans, she explained, came from a world that most galactic species would consider uninhabitable. Earth was a planet of extreme weather, dangerous predators, and constant natural disasters. It was what the humans called a death world. Living on such a planet had made humans different from other intelligent species. They were stronger, faster, and more adaptable. They formed deep emotional bonds and would fight desperately to protect those they cared about. They had an instinctive hatred of bullies and oppressors. Most importantly, they had developed a philosophy that the strong had a duty to protect the weak. It was not just a law or a suggestion among humans. It was a fundamental part of their nature. "We have been watching the galaxy for some time," Admiral Chen explained as they traveled. "We have seen the rise and fall of empires, the expansion of trade and exploration, but we have also seen the growth of piracy, slavery, and oppression in the outer regions where galactic law does not reach." "So you decided to do something about it?" HFY asked. "We decided to be ready," Admiral Chen corrected. "Humans do not seek out conflict, Captain, but when innocent people cry for help, we cannot ignore it. Your distress call was not the first we have received. It will not be the last. As the human escort fleet delivered the gentle current safely to its destination, HFY realized that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between the stars, a fleet of Deathworld warriors was watching and waiting. Pirates and slavers who had operated with impunity in the lawless regions were about to discover what happened when they threatened innocent people in the age of humanity. The call for help had been answered. Now would come the reckoning. 3 days after the rescue of the Gentle Current, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the Central Command Center of the Terran Federation's most advanced intelligence gathering facility. The station, hidden in the shadow of a dead moon, buzzed with activity as human analysts processed information from across the galaxy. The rescue of Captain HFY and his crew had been just the beginning. What the humans discovered in the wreckage of the pirate ships had revealed something far worse than simple raiders attacking cargo vessels. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, the station's chief intelligence officer. "You need to see this." Chen moved to Webb's workstation, where multiple holographic displays showed star maps, shipping routes, and communication intercepts. Webb had been analyzing data recovered from the pirate ship's computer systems, and what he had found painted a disturbing picture. These weren't independent pirates, Webb explained, pointing to a complex network of connections on his display. They're part of something called the Crimson Syndicate. It's a massive criminal organization that spans at least 12 star systems. Chen studied the data with growing concern. The network was far larger than anyone had suspected. "How many ships are we talking about?" "Conservative estimate? Over 200 vessels," Webb replied grimly. "But that's just the military assets. They also control mining operations, slave markets, and illegal weapons manufacturing. Admiral, they're not just raiding ships, they're building an empire." Another analyst, a young woman named Captain Lisa Rodriguez, approached with additional information. "Ma'am, we've been monitoring Galactic Federation communications. They've been receiving distress calls from this region for over a year. Ships disappearing, colonies going silent, trade routes being abandoned." "And what has the Federation done about it?" Chen asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "They've issued warnings to avoid the region," Rodriguez said with disgust. "They classified it as a hazardous shipping zone and told civilian vessels to take longer, safer routes. Basically, they've written off everything in this sector." Chen felt a familiar anger building in her chest. It was the same anger that had driven humanity to develop their advanced technology, to build their hidden fleets, to watch and wait for moments like this. The Galactic Federation was good at maintaining peace in the core worlds where the powerful species lived. But out here in the frontier regions, where smaller species struggled to build new lives, they were abandoned to whatever predators came hunting. "Show me the slave markets," Chen ordered. Webb's fingers moved across his controls, and new displays appeared showing locations throughout the Outer Rim territories. "We've identified at least 6 major slave trading centers. They're selling people from dozens of different species. Thessarians like Captain HFY, but also Ventaxi, Rillan, even some Centauri." Chen's jaw tightened. The Centauri were members of the Galactic Federation Council. If Federation citizens were being sold into slavery and the government was doing nothing about it, then the situation was even worse than she had thought. "How many people are we talking about?" she asked quietly. "Tens of thousands, Admiral," Rodriguez replied. "And the numbers are growing. The syndicate has become bold because no one has challenged them. They're expanding their operations, hitting larger targets, taking entire colonies." Chen was quiet for a long moment, processing the scope of what they had uncovered. Then she activated her personal communicator. "Command! This is Admiral Chen. I need to speak with Fleet Admiral Harrison immediately. Priority Alpha." Within minutes, the holographic image of Fleet Admiral James Harrison appeared in the command center, Harrison was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much violence in his long career. He commanded the Terran Federation's defensive fleets from Earth, but Chen knew he trusted her judgment completely. "Sarah," Harrison said without preamble, "what have you found?" Chen gestured to the displays around her. "Jim, we're looking at something bigger than anyone realized. The pirates who attacked that Thessarian cargo ship are part of a criminal empire that controls 12 star systems. They're operating slave markets, attacking Federation citizens, and the galactic government is doing nothing." Harrison studied the data as Webb transmitted it to Earth. His expression grew darker with each new piece of information. "How certain are you of these numbers?" he asked. "Very certain," Chen replied. "We've been tracking their communications for the past 72 hours. We know where their main bases are, how many ships they have, and what their next targets are going to be." "And what are their next targets?" "3 more colony worlds," Webb answered from his station. "All in the next 2 weeks. The first target is a Rillan agricultural colony with about 50,000 civilians. After that, they're planning to hit a mining operation run by a species called the Korthak. Finally, they want to take an entire Ventaxi settlement ship that's carrying families to establish a new colony." Harrison was quiet for several minutes, reviewing the intelligence data. Chen knew what he was thinking. The Terran Federation had built its hidden fleets for exactly this kind of situation, but using them meant revealing humanity's true capabilities to the galaxy. Once they acted, there would be no going back to watching from the shadows. "Sarah," Harrison said finally, "what do you recommend?" "Total elimination," Chen replied without hesitation. "These people have had a year to surrender, to negotiate, to find peaceful solutions. They chose to build their empire on the suffering of innocent people. They chose to ignore warnings and continue taking slaves. They made their choice, Jim. Now we make ours." Harrison nodded slowly. "How many ships do you need?" "I want the entire 7th Fleet," Chen said. "All 63 vessels. I want enough firepower to make sure this message is heard across the entire galaxy." "That seems like overkill for 200 pirate ships," Harrison observed. "It's not just about the pirates," Chen explained. "When we destroy the Crimson Syndicate, every other criminal organization in the galaxy is going to know about it. I want them to understand that humanity will not tolerate this kind of evil. I want them to be afraid." Harrison considered this. The 7th Fleet was one of humanity's most powerful naval formations, equipped with their most advanced technology. Deploying it would send a message that could not be ignored. "What about the Galactic Federation?" he asked. "They're not going to be happy about us operating in their territory without permission." "The Galactic Federation had their chance," Chen replied coldly. "They received over 100 distress calls from this region in the past year. They knew what was happening and chose to do nothing. I'm done asking permission to save innocent lives." Rodriguez approached with new intelligence. "Admiral, we've intercepted communications from the Syndicate's main base. They're accelerating their timeline. They want to hit the Rillan colony tomorrow instead of next week." "Why the change?" Chen asked. "They're worried about us," Webb answered. "Our intervention to save the gentle current has them spooked. They want to grab as many people as possible before more unknown aliens show up to interfere." Chen felt her anger spike. These monsters were so eager to take slaves that they were moving up their attacks. Children would be torn from their families tomorrow because these criminals wanted to fill their ships before anyone could stop them. "Jim," she said, turning back to Fleet Admiral Harrison, "I need authorization for Operation Thunderstrike, full deployment of the 7th Fleet with orders to eliminate all Crimson Syndicate assets and free any captives." Harrison was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "Authorization granted, Admiral Chen. The 7th Fleet is yours. Rules of engagement?" "Anyone who surrenders immediately and releases their captives will be spared," Chen replied. "Anyone who resists or threatens prisoners will be destroyed. No exceptions." "Understood," Harrison said. "Sarah, you know this changes everything, right?" Once we reveal our capabilities like this, the galaxy will know that humanity has been watching and waiting. We'll have to deal with the political consequences. Chen thought about Captain HFY and his crew, about the terror in his voice as he begged for help. She thought about the thousands of families being held in slave markets while the Galactic Federation issued warnings to avoid dangerous shipping zones. "Then we deal with the consequences," she said firmly. "But first, we save those people." Harrison smiled grimly. "Give them hell, Admiral. Humanity is with you." The holographic connection closed, and Chen immediately began issuing orders. Throughout the hidden station, officers and analysts worked frantically to coordinate the largest military operation in human history. Captain Rodriguez was tasked with monitoring Syndicate communications and tracking their fleet movements. Webb would coordinate intelligence gathering and target identification. Other teams began plotting hyperspace routes that would allow the 7th Fleet to strike multiple targets simultaneously. But Chen's most important call went to Captain HFY aboard the Gentle Current. The Thessarian cargo ship was still traveling under human escort toward its destination. HFY had been sharing information about trade routes and colony locations with his human protectors, not knowing that he was providing crucial intelligence for the coming operation. "Captain HFY," Chen said when his image appeared on her communication screen. "I have a question for you, and I need you to answer honestly." "Of course, Admiral," the Thessarian replied. "You saved our lives. I will tell you anything you wish to know." "We have learned that the pirates who attacked you are part of a much larger organization. They have been taking slaves and attacking colonies throughout this region. If we were to move against them, to put an end to their activities permanently, would you and your people support us?" HFY's eyes widened as he understood what Chen was asking. "Admiral, are you planning to attack the Syndicate? The entire organization?" "If we do," Chen said carefully, "it will not be a small operation. We will use whatever force is necessary to completely eliminate this threat. Some in the galaxy might say we are being too aggressive, that we should have worked through official channels." HFY was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke with conviction that surprised Chen with its intensity. "Admiral Chen," he said, 3 days ago my crew and I were about to die. We were about to be sold into slavery or murdered by criminals. We called for help and the Galactic Federation ignored us. But you came. You crossed hundreds of light years to save strangers." He paused, his scaled hands clasping together. "I have been a cargo hauler for 15 years. I have seen what these pirates do to people. I have visited colonies where families disappear in the night, where children are taken from their parents. If you can stop this evil, then you have not just my support, but my gratitude." "Even if it means violence?" Chen asked. "Even if it means we destroy ships and kill people?" "Admiral," HFY said firmly, "anyone who makes their living by enslaving innocent people has forfeited their right to live peacefully. You are not the aggressors here. You are responding to aggression. There is a difference." Chen nodded, satisfied. If the victims of Syndicate attacks supported strong action, then humanity had the moral authority to act. Over the next 18 hours, the 7th Fleet assembled at predetermined coordinates throughout the sector. 63 ships materialized from hyperspace, their stealth systems keeping them hidden from Syndicate sensors. These were not the sleek, elegant vessels favored by most galactic species. These were ships built by a species that had evolved on a death world, designed by minds that understood violence and survival. The flagship, TFS Retribution, was a massive dreadnought carrying enough firepower to crack planets. Surrounding it were battle cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and support vessels, all equipped with technology that would seem like magic to most galactic species. As Chen transferred her flag to the Retribution, she received one final intelligence update from Captain Rodriguez. "Admiral, Rodriguez reported. The Syndicate has begun their attack on the Rillan colony. 6 ships have dropped out of hyperspace and are demanding surrender. The colonists are calling for help. Chen felt the familiar cold calm that came over her before battle. Around her, the bridge crew of the Retribution prepared for combat with practiced efficiency. "Signal the fleet," Chen ordered. "Operation Thunderstrike is now active. All ships are authorized to engage Syndicate targets. Remember, our mission is to eliminate this threat completely. Any ship that threatens innocent civilians is to be destroyed without hesitation." The 7th Fleet began to move. 63 vessels of war emerging from the darkness to answer the cries for help that the galaxy had ignored for too long. The age of humanity's hidden watch was ending. The age of human justice was about to begin. The first target was the Rillan colony of New Harvest, where 50,000 farmers and their families were being terrorized by 6 Syndicate vessels. Admiral Sarah Chen watched from the bridge of the TFS Retribution as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly above the small agricultural world. The Syndicate ships were positioned in orbit, their weapons trained on the planet's surface. On the communication channels, Chen could hear the pirates making their demands. They wanted the colonists to load their entire harvest into cargo ships. They wanted volunteers to serve as slaves. They wanted the colony's children to be brought to the ships for processing. Chen's hands tightened on the command console as she listened to families pleading for mercy over the radio. This had to end now. "All ships," she broadcast to the 7th Fleet, "you are cleared to engage. Eliminate the Syndicate vessels. Protect the civilians at all costs." What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. The human ships moved with impossible speed and precision. Their weapon systems, based on principles that most species had never imagined, struck the Syndicate vessels with devastating effect. The pirates had perhaps 3 seconds to realize they were under attack before their ships began exploding around them. The first Syndicate vessel, a converted heavy cruiser, was cut in half by a focused gravity beam that compressed its hull into a sphere of twisted metal. The second ship tried to turn its weapons on the planet's surface, threatening to kill civilians if the humans did not withdraw. A human destroyer responded by teleporting an antimatter warhead directly into the pirate ship's reactor core. The remaining 4 ships lasted slightly longer, managing to fire a few desperate shots at the human fleet. Their energy weapons struck the Retribution's shields and were absorbed harmlessly. The return fire from the human dreadnought removed the pirate ships from existence with surgical precision. The entire engagement lasted 97 seconds. "This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Federation Navy," she broadcast to the planet's surface. "The immediate threat has been eliminated. We are scanning for additional hostiles and will maintain protective patrol until the sector is secured." From New Harvest's capital city, a voice responded with obvious relief and amazement. "Admiral Chen, this is Governor Takala of the Rillan Colonial Authority. We cannot believe what we just witnessed. How did you arrive so quickly? How did you know we needed help?" "Governor," Chen replied, "we have been monitoring criminal activity in this sector for some time. When innocent people call for help, we respond. That is our commitment to you." But even as she spoke to the grateful colonists, Chen was coordinating the next phase of the operation. The 7th Fleet had split into multiple task forces, each assigned to strike specific Syndicate targets throughout the region. Task Force Alpha, led by Captain Diana Martinez aboard the battlecruiser TFS Vengeance, was hitting the Syndicate's main slave market on a space station called Perdition's Gate. Task Force Beta was eliminating pirate bases in the Kepler Nebula. Task Force Gamma was liberating a prison facility where thousands of captured civilians were being held. The reports began flooding in within minutes. "Admiral," came Captain Martinez's voice over the fleet communication network. "Perdition's Gate has surrendered. They released all captives immediately when they saw our ships approaching. We have over 3,000 freed slaves requesting transport home." Task Force Beta reporting. announced Captain David Park from the destroyer TFS Thunder. "We have eliminated 17 Syndicate vessels in the Kepler system. No survivors among the pirates, but we've rescued over 200 prisoners from the asteroid facilities." Similar reports arrived from across the sector as the human fleet systematically dismantled an entire criminal empire. The Syndicate's leadership had never faced an organized military response before. They were used to dealing with individual cargo ships or lightly armed patrol vessels. They had no strategy for fighting a technologically superior fleet that struck multiple targets simultaneously. But the most important battle was yet to come. At the heart of the Syndicate's territory lay their fortress world of Blackrock, a heavily defended planet that served as their capital and main base of operations. Intelligence reports indicated that the Syndicate's leadership was gathering there, along with their most powerful warships and their most valuable prisoners. Chen took a task force of 20 ships, including the Retribution, directly to Blackrock. As they dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves facing the largest concentration of hostile vessels they had encountered yet. Nearly 60 Syndicate ships surrounded the dark planet, ranging from converted cargo vessels to actual military-grade warships. At the center of the formation was a massive battleship that could have challenged any vessel in the Galactic Federation fleet. "Unknown vessels," came a transmission from the Syndicate flagship. "This is Admiral Krathmix of the Crimson Syndicate. You have interfered with our operations for the last time. Withdraw immediately or we will destroy you." Chen studied the tactical display showing the enemy formation. By conventional standards, the humans were outnumbered 3-1. But conventional standards did not apply to ships built by a species from a death world. "Admiral Krathmix," Chen replied calmly. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation Navy. You have one opportunity to surrender. Release all prisoners, disable your weapons, and prepare to be taken into custody. Refuse, and we will destroy every ship in your fleet." Krathmix's response came in the form of weapons fire. Every ship in the Syndicate fleet opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy beams and missiles. The human ships moved like dancers in a choreographed performance. Their advanced maneuvering systems allowed them to avoid incoming fire while positioning themselves for optimal shots. Their shields absorbed hits that would have vaporized other vessels. Their weapons struck back with precision that turned space battles into target practice. The Retribution led the charge, its massive guns reaching out across impossible distances to tear Syndicate vessels apart. Chen watched as ship after ship vanished from the tactical display, eliminated with clinical efficiency by her crew. But she was also monitoring other screens showing the situation on Blackrock's surface. The planet was covered with slave camps, processing centers where captured civilians were sorted for sale to buyers throughout the criminal underworld. "Captain Rodriguez," Chen called to her intelligence officer. "How many prisoners on the planet's surface?" "Preliminary scans indicate approximately 15,000 individuals from various species," Rodriguez replied. "Admiral, some of the biosignatures are very weak. Medical attention needed immediately." Chen's jaw tightened. 15,000 people suffering while their captors fought to keep them enslaved. This ended now. "All ships," she broadcast, "focus fire on military targets only. I want those camps intact, and I want rescue teams ready to deploy the moment we've eliminated the fleet." The battle continued for another 20 minutes, but the outcome was never in doubt. Human weapons technology was simply too advanced for the Syndicate ships to match. One by one, the pirate vessels were destroyed or disabled. When Admiral Krathmix's flagship finally exploded, taking the Syndicate's leadership with it, the remaining ships began to surrender. Chen accepted their surrenders, but immediately deployed Marine teams to secure their vessels and free any prisoners aboard. The liberation of Blackrock's surface was a massive operation involving thousands of human personnel. Medical teams worked frantically to treat prisoners who had been starving or tortured. Engineers dismantled the slave processing facilities. Intelligence specialists gathered evidence of the syndicate's crimes. But perhaps the most important moment came when Captain HFY arrived with a fleet of Thessarian vessels. After learning about the human operation through their military communications, HFY had convinced his government to send every available ship to assist with the rescue efforts. When his cargo vessel approached Black Rock, he requested permission to beam directly to the Retribution's bridge. Chen met him in the teleporter room, where the small Thessarian captain looked around in amazement at the advanced human technology. "Admiral Chen," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "what you have done here, I have no words. 15,000 people who woke up this morning as slaves will go to sleep tonight as free citizens because of you." "Because of all of us," Chen corrected. "Your distress call started this, Captain. When you broadcast that message asking for help, you gave us the information we needed to track down this entire network." HFY nodded, then asked the question that Chen had been expecting. "What happens now, Admiral? You have revealed your fleet, your technology, your capabilities. The Galactic Federation will want answers." Chen smiled grimly. "The Galactic Federation will get answers. We're transmitting all our evidence of syndicate crimes to every major government in the galaxy. We're also including our own after-action reports showing exactly how we eliminated this threat. And if they object to your methods, then they can explain why they ignored 100 distress calls while innocent people were enslaved and murdered," Chen replied. "Captain, humanity has been watching the galaxy for decades. We've seen the good and the bad. We've decided we can no longer remain hidden when people need our help." 3 days later, the cleanup operations were complete. The Crimson Syndicate had been completely eliminated as an organization. Their fleet was destroyed, their bases captured, their leadership dead or in custody. Over 20,000 rescued prisoners were being transported home by ships from a dozen different species. The political response was swift and dramatic. The Galactic Federation Council demanded an immediate meeting with human representatives. Some species praised humanity's intervention, while others questioned their right to act unilaterally. Admiral Chen found herself standing before the assembled representatives of 37 different civilizations, explaining humanity's actions to beings who had never heard of her species a week earlier. "Honorable counselors," she said, addressing the massive assembly chamber, "humanity does not seek to dominate the galaxy or challenge legitimate authority. We seek only to protect innocent people from those who would do them harm." Council Speaker Veltar, a tall insectoid being from the Centauri Confederation, leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral Chen, your species operated in secret for decades. You built fleets and developed technology without consulting this council. How can we trust your intentions?" Chen had prepared for this question. "Speaker Veltar, with respect, we built our fleets because the galaxy needed protectors who were not bound by political considerations. The Crimson Syndicate operated for over a year in Federation space. They attacked Federation citizens and sold them into slavery. Your government issued warnings to avoid their territory rather than eliminating the threat." The chamber erupted in angry voices as different species argued about jurisdiction, authority, and the proper response to criminal activity. Chen waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "Counselors," she said firmly, "humanity learned long ago that evil flourishes when good people choose to do nothing. We will not apologize for saving innocent lives. We will not apologize for destroying an organization that traded in human suffering." An elderly Rillan representative stood up slowly. "Speaker Veltar, if I may address the council." The chair recognizes Elder Tavara of the Rillan colonies. The old alien looked directly at Chen before speaking. 3 days ago, my granddaughter and her family were about to be enslaved by criminals. Today, she is safe in her home because Admiral Chen and her people chose to act when no one else would. He turned to face the rest of the council. "I have heard much debate about jurisdiction and proper procedures. I hear nothing about the 20,000 people who are alive and free because of human intervention. Other representatives began standing, one by one. A Ventaxi diplomat whose people had been rescued from syndicate ships. A Thessarian trade minister whose cargo fleet had been under constant threat. A dozen species whose citizens had been saved by human action. Finally, Speaker Veltar called for order. The Council recognizes that this situation is unprecedented. We must determine how to proceed. Chen stepped forward. Speaker, humanity offers the galaxy a simple proposal. We will continue to maintain defensive fleets throughout the outer regions. When innocent people call for help, we will respond. We will not interfere in legitimate government activities or territorial disputes. We ask only that the galaxy's leaders remember their duty to protect their citizens, especially those living in frontier regions where your authority is limited. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. Too many species had benefited from human intervention for the Council to condemn it. In the end, they passed a resolution acknowledging humanity's right to conduct defensive operations against criminal organizations, provided they shared intelligence with appropriate authorities. But Chen knew the real victory had already been achieved. Word of humanity's intervention was spreading throughout the galaxy. Pirates and slavers were learning that a new force had entered the game, one that would cross hundreds of light years to answer distress calls. 6 months later, Admiral Chen received a message on the emergency channel that had started it all. But this time, it was not a cry for help. "Admiral Chen," came Captain Zephi's familiar voice. "This is the merchant vessel Gentle Current. We wanted to inform you that we have completed another successful trading run through the outer territories. No pirate activity encountered. The shipping lanes are clear and safe." Chen smiled as she listened to the message. Throughout the sector, cargo ships were moving freely for the first time in years. Colonies were expanding without fear of attack. Families were reunited with loved ones who had been rescued from slave markets. The galaxy had learned that when innocent people cried for help, the Deathworlders would answer with a fleet of Retribution. But more importantly, they had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not their advanced technology or their powerful ships. It was their unwavering commitment to protecting those who could not protect themselves. In the vast darkness of space, the hidden fleets of humanity continued their watch, ready to respond when the next distress call arrived. Because somewhere out there, another family might need saving, another colony might be under attack, another voice might cry out for help. And when that happened, the Deathworlders would come.